Hey guys, Hikari here, and today we're going to get into the latest chapter spoilers for the newest chapter, My Hero Academia, chapter 367 of the series. And this chapter was very crazy. We actually see Deku finally go into his rage mode, which we all kind of assumed was going to happen. But if you enjoy spoilers for the newest chapters of My Hero Academia, or you just enjoy getting a big jump on the newest chapters of the series, consider giving the channel a like and a subscribe, as I'll be doing weekly spoiler videos for different series on my channel, and they'll basically help you get a big jump on the newest chapters of the series. So definitely look out for these videos on my channel and consider giving me a sub. But without further ado, let's get into the spoilers for this newest chapter. The chapter will actually start off with a sort of flashback to a little bit before Deku arrived on the battlefield, and it's going to be him basically riding with the different members of Stars and Stripes' crew. And you gotta remember, these are the people that she saw as brothers, the people that she really felt were the ones that were always there for her. So they're kind of putting their hope into Deku, and we see them literally say this. They're saying that, you know, they're kind of there right here with them, and that they have their hopes placed in him because Star and Stripes basically said that she's betting on the future. So they're betting on Deku right now, and they want to see him kind of succeed where she wasn't really able to against Shigaraki in her previous fight. I feel like this is going to be a very important kind of moment in the chapter, since it really shows that these people that bet on Star and Stripes, they were there for her and they would have sacrificed themselves to do anything for her. They're basically listening to her and realizing that they have to kind of bet on the new generation, the future of heroes, and they kind of have to go with Deku right now to make sure that he succeeds and he's able to beat Shigaraki and All For One. They really want this to happen, and it just shows just how much they appreciate the fact that Star and Stripes is able to give them another person to kind of put their hopes in. We actually cut back to the present time of the chapter, where we see that Deku was able to land that big hit on Shigaraki, and we see that Mirio is actually smiling at the fact that Deku's back in the fight, and he's very happier now that they have backup and that not as many people are going to actually get hurt anymore now that Deku's finally arrived on the battlefield. But we also get a realization that Shigaraki even notices just how much stronger Deku has become. So it has been a while since Shigaraki himself has seen Deku, so he realizes now that Deku is probably in a completely different league from even the time where they fought in the previous war. It's then that we're actually told that Shigaraki, or more specifically I'm thinking All For One, actually sees the energy kind of coming off of Deku's body right now, and he says that he notices that this is kind of reminding him of the third One For All user. He's actually the user that had the quirk Fa Jin, and this is obviously what Deku kind of used in the last chapter when he launched himself towards Shigaraki, so he's noticing the fact that this quirk was in use right now. This attack from the last chapter, I'm assuming, actually sends him flying straight into the other side of the barrier, so this wasn't just any pushover attack, and this is probably going to be kind of the most damage that anybody's been able to do in a single hit to Shigaraki since this fight started. So that's kind of crazy, just seeing just how much powerful Deku is compared to everybody else right now. Deku then attempts to try to apologize to everybody for kind of being late and not getting there faster than he kind of hoped, and that's when he kind of notices the condition of everybody that was in the fight, and he sees that everybody's kind of down right now, and he sees that everybody isn't really able to fight, and this is when he actually notices Bakugo is actually gone and that Bakugo might actually be slain, and this is where Deku gets very mad. We even get a confirmation that he kind of noticed the little All Might card that Bakugo has, and I don't know if Deku necessarily knows that Bakugo kind of carries this everywhere he goes, but it's kind of just sad seeing that this is what he was clutching in his hand before he supposedly passed away. But at this point, Deku doesn't know that Bakugo might actually be able to get saved, but this actually ends up prompting the All For One portion of the Shigaraki kind of mix that's going on right now to start to try to get into Deku's head, the same way he always does. He's been doing this for so many chapters now since the beginning of the story, honestly, where he starts to kind of talk and get into people's heads, and he's very successful with this. We see that it worked on a bunch of different people. He even worked on Endeavor for a second before Endeavor kind of snapped out of it, but he's very good at getting into your head and making you just go insane and start to mess up, and we see that he starts to try to implement this on Deku, and we're going to see that for a little bit it actually started to work on Deku. We see that Deku actually glances over at Bakugo again, and this is where his rage completely takes over, and we start to see that we might get a repeat of the other war arc where Deku went completely insane against Shigaraki, and we see that his eyes get monstrous and they get that white look most likely that he had in the other war arc, and that his black whip starts to come out just the same way that it kind of did in the other fight, and we see that he's going to go on a rampage right now. If somebody doesn't stop him, he's going to rampage against Shigaraki, and this is likely going to be the undoing of him, and he's most likely going to mess up and maybe pass away in this fight if it goes on like this so we need somebody to kind of save him right now, and it seems like this is going to be the best instance for Mirio to step in. Before that happens though, we see that Shigaraki's kind of getting really giddy at this. He's saying, you know, this is kind of the perfect scenario for him, that Deku's going to be blindly raging and running at him, and that this is going to be the best way for him to kind of end the fight. And this is when we get the portion where Mirio actually jumps in and he's able to kind of stop Deku from messing up and going insane during this fight. Mirio then screams over to Deku saying that, you know, Deku, everything's okay, everything's fine, and that you don't have to rage, you don't have to rampage. He starts to tell Deku that this is exactly what Shigaraki wants right now. He wants him to start raging and to mess up, and that, you know, he doesn't have to worry about Bakugo right now because Edgeshot is actually replacing Bakugo's organs, and that he's going to get Bakugo back up and running, and that everybody's going to kind of be okay. And it's important to notice that he kind of tells Deku not really a lie, but he doesn't really tell him the full story about what's going on right now. He just tells Deku that Edgeshot is kind of replacing his organs and that he's going to get Bakugo back up and running, but he doesn't actually tell him the fact that Bakugo is going to be saved at the cost of Edgeshot's life. So this is kind of him kind of trying to preserve the situation and get Deku to not really worry about anybody else right now and to completely focus on fighting Shigaraki and Shigaraki only. So it's important that he doesn't tell Deku that maybe one of the heroes here is actually going to pass away at the cost of getting Bakugo back up and running. So this is going to be honestly the best case scenario for the fight moving forward right now, the fact that Deku doesn't really know the full extent of what's going on with the heroes. It's at this point that Deku is actually able to kind of snap out of it, and he realizes that heroes are always going to be kind of faced with these different situations, and that, you know, he needs to just kind of become better and actually fight against Shigaraki right now and listen to Mirio. So he snaps out of the trance that he was in right there, and he's actually able to start fighting. The chapter this week is actually going to end off with Deku facing against All For One, and he asked All For One if Shigaraki is still there, so he knows that it's kind of All For One having the bigger influence in the fight right now in the body of Shigaraki. So he's wondering if Shigaraki is even still there, and we see that the chapter ends off with him kind of standing with the vestiges of all of the different One For All users, and we see that he's still very mad at Shigaraki right now. He's still ferocious and he's angry, but he's also still calm, and he's going to go into this fight better minded than he was going to previously do it before Mirio kind of intervened. And this is actually where the chapter ends off, and this is a very cool chapter this week. This is going to be very cool, and I'm definitely going to be very hyped when I see the actual panels of Deku kind of raging against Shigaraki again for the second time, it seems. But this is an interesting chapter, and I really did like it. I can't wait for the actual panels to come out though, and definitely let me know what you guys thought of these spoilers. Did you think this chapter was kind of cool? The only gripe I have is that nothing too crazy really happened or anything to really push forward the narrative of the story, but it is cool that we're kind of finally getting the setup to what is going to be the biggest fight of the series. So definitely let me know what you guys thought of the chapter in the comments. Also, like the video if you liked it and subscribe, as it really does help me out, and I really do appreciate each and every one of you guys for sticking around and watching my content. Also, follow my socials, follow my TikTok and my Twitter, as they're going to be linked in the description down below. I want to thank everybody for watching, and I'm out. Peace.